all our correspondents standing by, ready to deliver their updates from across North America. And in the true aloha spirit, we would like to let our friends from Canada go first, starting from Thomas Likeness in Alberta.
Alberta's top doc sees little value in testing everyone working and living in nursing homes.
Going out west in British Columbia, we have Kathleen Cruz from Vancouver.
There are tight new border restrictions in Canada for returning Canadians and others.
Going east side now in Ottawa, Canada's capital, we have Sabir Mufti.
Ontario Premier extends the state of emergency 28 days more to May 12th and says the province is going to redeploy every resource to long-term care homes.
Now let's head over to the United States, starting off with the National Capital Region. We have Kent Cruz in Maryland.
Coronavirus-related deaths surpassed 500 in the DMV.
We also have Abigail Dumlao in upstate New York.
Governor Cuomo announces multi-state council and hopes worst is behind us.
And out to the Lone Star State of Texas, we have Kathleen Gregorio.
The governor of Mississippi declares a new state of emergency with at least 12 tornadoes claiming 11 lives, and Texas governor discusses plans to reopen businesses in the state.
Out to the West Coast in Southern California, we have Pearl Rogachon.
Governor Newsom announces details of California roadmap to modify the stay-at-home order.
And in Las Vegas, we have Lani Valdecantos.
Nevada unemployment ranks number 9 in the nation. What is our local government doing about it?
And later in our program, we will meet a school lunch server from Washington State who still goes to work every day to help feed families and their children in that area. And today, we will learn how to bake some yummy red velvet crinkles, and whip up some Dalgona coffee that's starting to become popular in social media. But first, like we always do, we have to provide an overview of how the world looks right now. We have the latest according to the Coronavirus Resource Center at Johns Hopkins University. As of April 14, 5 p.m. Eastern Time, the number of cases reported worldwide is edging closer to 2 million. This includes more than 589,000 in the US and more than 26,000 in Canada. Now, sadly, this virus has claimed more than 125,000 lives, to include more than 25,000 in the US and just shy of 900 in Canada. Now, we're going to kick off with our live reports. And like I said, we let our friends north of the border start us off. And who better to do so than our friend from Alberta, who does not need an introduction, and that shirt does look familiar. Thomas Likeness. How are you, Tom?
I'm great. Aloha, Alfred. How are things in the great state of Hawaii?
Well, I don't know. Like I said, it's been raining here. I don't know if Canada has something to do with that, but, you know, hey, I'm assuming it's getting warmer there in Canada with that shirt on.
We're still around the freezing mark. We have freezing rain tonight, which is worse than snow because a little hard to drive on. Hey, it was your birthday yesterday. You don't even look a day older.
Okay, yeah. Thank you for the greetings the other day, and thank you for the greetings that I'm still getting as we speak. Thanks, Tom.
You look younger. You must be a patient of Dr. Bellows or somebody. I don't know. Anyway, in the news, the COVID-19 virus is ravaging Canada's elderly population with a vengeance. Canada's Chief Public Health Officer, Dr. Theresa Tam, says half of the more than 820 coronavirus deaths in Canada are linked to long-term care facilities. Now, there's been reports out of Ontario and Quebec of some horrifying conditions. Here in our province of Alberta, The situation less dire, but it's still worrisome. Now, our Chief Medical Officer of Health, you've heard her before on this program, Dr. Dina Hinshaw, says there's been 214 cases of COVID-19 in nursing homes in Alberta. There have been 30 deaths, 21 of them, though, in a single Calgary home. Hinshaw was asked earlier today whether testing all people, staff and residents both, whether they had symptoms or not. She was asked, would this be helpful?
Again, I just want to emphasize that really is only a snapshot. So you can test someone who's asymptomatic and they test negative. It's possible that the next day they could go on to develop symptoms, or if you tested them every day, they could become positive over time. So any attempt to add our testing in those facilities, add asymptomatic people to that testing, would have to be really carefully planned. The danger is if you get a negative result on an asymptomatic person, and you then think, well, the next day if they develop a bit of a cough, you think, oh, that's no problem, they just tested negative. You can't rely again on a negative test in an asymptomatic person to be a predictor of what will happen over the coming days.
Now, Hinshaw says anybody with symptoms is immediately isolated, they're immediately tested and kept away from patients. Now, some of the measures to control outbreaks in seniors' homes include prohibiting people from working at more than one facility. Often what's happened is you've got one operator with a group of homes, and some of the staff works over here today, and then they come here tomorrow. They don't want that happening anymore, so you have to only work at one home. It prevents any possible infection being transferred from one facility to another. There's also a ban on all visitors. And as well, there's a new order coming out tomorrow. It goes into effect. All staff will be required to wear masks at all times when providing direct patient care or even working in patient care areas. So that would include even cleaning staff. If they're working in a patient care area, they're going to have to wear a mask. Here's what the numbers look like in Canada. More than 26,000 cases nationwide, about 80% of them in Ontario and Quebec, 823 deaths in my province of Alberta, 138 new cases in the last 24 hours, most of them in Calgary. Epidemiologists are kind of having a look at Calgary. They have about 60% of the cases in the province, more than twice as many as we have here in Edmonton. They're trying to figure out why. We've got a total of 48 deaths, including 2 in the last day. Let's move on to another issue now. Agriculture, food production, farming. What's that got to do with COVID-19? Well, each year we have about 60,000 migrant farm workers come to Canada. Most of them work in vegetable farms or picking fruit in orchards, caring for the trees. And most of them are in Ontario and BC, although they're in every province doing something. They help with seeding, harvesting crops, working with animals. Others are working seasonally for food processing companies, fish processing companies, things like that. Now, after the season is over, of course, they go home. But with the COVID-19, there's fear that some of them may bring the virus here. So, like everybody else coming to Canada, these workers have to be quarantined for 14 days. And for farmers and small companies that are processing the crops, this is a big expense. We're not talking about multinationals here. This isn't Kraft Foods or anything like that. These are small operations. So the Canadian government has stepped up. They're providing $50 million to cover the costs of the mandatory quarantine for these temporary workers. Employers will be given $1,500 per worker. The money can be used for salaries or supplying the necessary accommodation. As always, I wish you good health. Take care of others. Take care of yourselves. Stay at home. Stay safe and stay tuned to Eagle News for accurate and balanced coverage of the COVID-19 pandemic. In Edmonton, Canada, Thomas I. Likeness, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
Mahalo for that update, Thomas. I'm especially curious about that nursing home situation. Recalling what had happened when the crisis began in the U.S., starting with Washington State involving a nursing home. And just last week, a hospital in Maui discovered that they had a huge concentration of confirmed cases. I'm especially curious whether the province there or even the central government is considering any kind of additional measures for screening or redundancy in screening or testing of these healthcare workers. What's your take on that?
Okay, in Alberta, all healthcare workers, whether they're in a nursing home, an extended care facility, or even an active treatment hospital, they're greeted at the front door when they come to work. First thing is a temperature check. Then they fill out a questionnaire detailing any symptoms they might have. At that point, the decision is made, can you go to work, or are we going to test you and keep you away from patients? So they're very, very diligent in Alberta here. I'm not so sure what happened in Quebec and Ontario. We had a bit of an advantage here because we were a little late getting into the game, so we had a chance to see what didn't work elsewhere. And our medical officer of health, she took the tough measures right away. She didn't back down. She based her decisions basically are based on science, not politics. And some of them were unpopular.
Understood. Now, given that there's a pretty sizable agricultural community there in Alberta, and I take it the seasons are still transitioning between winter and spring. What's Alberta's specialty as far as crops there?
Okay, crops here are mostly things like wheat, canola, which is an oil seed, rye, which is another grain. Those would be our major crops here. We aren't going to see much seeding action until the middle of May, maybe the end of May. However, in southern Ontario, in British Columbia, they're actually growing vegetables now. Again, we're a big country. Not only do we have 5 different time zones, I'm sure we've got about at least 5 different climate zones. So British Columbia, in the southern portion there, they're growing vegetables, likewise in southern Ontario. So some of these workers have already come and they're starting to work in these farms there.
It'd be interesting to see how the agricultural industry goes through this crisis. Just if I were to compare the situation here, which the temperatures are ideal, but then there's a lot of crop, a lot of produce that needs to be sold, and how that's going to work, from farm to the customers is going to play out, given the social distancing and other restrictions. That's something to look forward to there, Tom.
And that, too, is a problem for processors, not only getting the help, but creating the working conditions where they can do the work. Because, like you say, we can't be working side by each anymore. We've got to have that 6-foot distancing. And it's been a lot of changes.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Tom. I do appreciate the updates, and we look forward to hearing from you. And reading from you, by the way.
Okay, mahalo, Alfred.
You take care. Take care, please. Okay. Now we move on now to British Columbia, where we have Kathleen Cruz to cover on British Columbia focusing its attention on returning travelers, requiring them to submit a self-isolation plan. Hello, Kathleen.
Hi, Alfred. Thank you. How are you there?
Feeling warm, and looks like I'm hoping it's just as warm there.
Yeah, so unlike Edmonton, we don't have freezing rain, but we do have started to have spring weather, about 16 degrees Celsius, or I guess 60 degrees in Fahrenheit.
Good conversion. I'm glad you can convert like that. I have to master that myself, so go ahead.
Well, so just a quick update on numbers here from the province of British Columbia. As of April 14, 2020, there are now a total of 1,517 confirmed cases of COVID-19. Unfortunately, with 72 deaths, which majority are from those in the long-term care facilities. And with a total of 942 people fully recovered and no longer require isolation, which is really positive for the province. And just for today, the federal government has introduced tough new rules for travelers coming to Canada, which will go into effect in a few hours. With more than 26,000 cases of COVID-19 in the country, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau wants to make sure travelers aren't bringing the virus into the country. And at his daily briefing today, Trudeau says it isn't enough to tell people at the border to self-quarantine. He says now when someone arrives at the port of entry, they must produce a credible quarantine plan.
The order that goes in tonight is a strengthening of the Quarantine Act orders to give authorities the ability, upon evaluation of the person entering Canada's plan to self-quarantine. If it is inadequate, they will be required to quarantine in a hotel. Examples of things that could be inadequate, for example, if their plan is to go stay in a place where there are many elderly family members at risk of COVID-19, or whether they don't have a set destination if they've been outside of the country for many years. We now have the authority to require them to self-isolate for 2 weeks in a quarantine location like a hotel.
So Trudeau advises anyone planning to come to Canada make their quarantine arrangements in advance. This is in following the lead that the province of British Columbia had already announced on April 11, 2020. This is to put more attention on returning travelers to submit a self-isolation plan. All international travelers, including those who are coming from the United States by air, land, or sea, returning the province are required by law to self-isolate for 14 days and complete the self-isolation plan upon arrival, which includes providing information such as the location of the 14-day self-isolation, mode of travel to isolation location, and plan how to access necessary daily needs. If the returning traveler or travelers have COVID-19 symptoms, the self-isolation plan must undergo health assessments, monitor the signs and symptoms of that 14-day period, and report to the health authorities if additional care is needed, such as childcare, social support, and accommodation. However, if the returning traveler shows no symptoms, self-isolation plan still to be reviewed and will be checked by provincial officials to monitor the health of those individuals. In compliance with this Quarantine Act, breaking this self-isolation orders can include a fine up to $750,000 and or 6 months in prison. And as mentioned by Dr. Bonnie Henry, who's the BC's provincial health officer, the self-isolation plan is an ongoing initiative to protect all British Columbians and ensure that all returning travelers will get all the support they need and continue to help and stop the transmission of the virus in the province. In Vancouver, Kathleen Cruz, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
Much appreciated for the updates there in British Columbia. You know what, I just found out earlier, a few minutes ago, that you are environmental test. Is that correct?
Yes, Alfred, I am.
All right. Okay. Doctor. Okay.
No, I'm not. I'm no doctor. Just bachelor's degree.
That's okay. That's okay. Yeah, that says a lot. Now, how is the pandemic affecting the industry that you belong to? Well, what's your description?
So I actually belong in a research industry. So the initiative of our company is for research on carbon capture. So basically climate change action. The company take on this type of pandemic, as most of the companies we are also affected, because 90% of our staff are already working from home, and that 10% of the staffs are only those that are going into the office to limit the amount of people that will still go to work, which I am part of as a chemist because I have to do my research. But that take to limit the people actually gave us that confidence that we're not, and we are still in accordance to the BC emergency mandate that we have to limit the amount of people in the office, and we have that social distance. And additionally, they're taking precautions on requiring the staff to actually wear masks, and additional cleaning protocols are added as well by cleaning all the high-touch areas by bleach solution. As being, you know, those ones are the only ones available right now. And as a chemist, I was actually tasked to make sanitizers at work because people have panic buy, and we couldn't find any more cleaning solution. We couldn't find any more sanitizer. So we were lucky enough to have the lab to actually make our own sanitizers. So that's our take.
That's good to know. That's good to know. Now, does that make you, I guess, essential personnel if that were the case? Is that an automatic given for your peers, or is it based on your area of expertise?
We, as a company, we're not essential business. So the company is actually following protocols by the BC government. So if any case that they target that all non-essential will be locked down, we have that emergency response that all essential workers who are in the operations, who are still going to work, will have additional work from home duties to compensate. But fortunately enough, we still have work to do, Alfred. So yeah.
Salute you there, Kathleen. Hang in there, and thank you for what you do there in that part of the world. You take care, okay?
Thank you, Alfred. Same to you, and stay safe.
You too. Let's move on now to Eastern Canada, where Ontario Premier Doug Ford has extended the state of emergency 28 days more, all the way to the 12th of May, and says the province is going to redeploy every resource to long-term care homes. Joining us from Ottawa is Sabir Mufti. Aloha, Sabir.
Aloha, Alfred. It's good to see you once again. And let's do a quick check up on the numbers. In Ontario, we have 7,953 cases, and our deaths are 383. In Quebec, our neighbor to the east, we have 14,000 cases, 14,248 cases to be exact, and their deaths are at 435. So things are not improving too much there. Here in Ottawa, my hometown, my city, we have 33 new cases happened today, bringing our total to 619, with one new death, bringing us to 11 citywide. As Alfred, you mentioned, Ontario Premier Doug Ford has extended this state of emergency and is redeploying those resources to long-term care as he sees the need to help the long-term care homes, especially since the province reports 483 newly confirmed cases of COVID-19 just in Tuesday alone. He also stated that the schools will not be opening on May 4th, as that date has been extended. Now, Alfred, I like rules, and as Canadians, we tend to follow them to a T, as I've mentioned on this show before. However, the government of Canada, COVID-19's rules, don't seem to apply to Andrew Scheer and Justin Trudeau. Conservative leader Andrew Scheer brought his wife, Jill, and 5 children to Ottawa aboard a small government jet, along with 2 other MPs during a time when health authorities are encouraging people to keep socially distant. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau also traveled over the weekend, heading to Harrington Lake, which is about 25 kilometers from his home, Rideau Cottage, in Ottawa. Trudeau's wife, Sophie Gregoire Trudeau, posted a photo online on her Facebook page of the Prime Minister and his 3 children on Sunday at the cottage. Theresa Tam, Canada's Chief Public Health Officer, whom you'll hear quite a bit in this report, has discouraged people from getting to their cottage properties. Urban dwellers should avoid heading to rural properties, as these places have less capacity to manage COVID-19, she said in early April. Now, moving on to something more interesting, physical distancing loopholes need to stop. Ottawa health official says, "We are hearing about people who are looking for what I call loopholes." Dr. Brent Maloney told reporters on Tuesday. The problem is that a gathering can start with 2 people on a driveway or talking over the fence and turn into a parking lot or backyard party, he said. Even if you have been technically observing physical distancing guidelines, there are still dangers to these situations, including the fact that some people who have COVID-19 do not exhibit symptoms. The message remains to stay at home, only make essential trips, and associate only with people in your household, said Maloney. Now on to some good news coming from the government. Health Canada approved Spartan Bioscience's portable COVID-19 test. Rapid COVID-19 testing devices are on the way to remote and Indigenous communities where access and timely results have been hindered by distance and limited resources, officials said Monday after a new test kit was approved over the weekend. Canada's Chief Public Health Officer, Dr. Theresa Tam, said the handheld DNA analyzer from Ottawa's Spartan Bioscience will offer rapid test results for health services in rural and remote areas that otherwise must send their samples to laboratories in larger centers. Dubbed the Spartan Cube and about the size of a coffee cup, results can be had in less than an hour and do not require the specialized expertise and equipment of a large lab. Spartan Bioscience said the tests will be rolled out immediately, but it wasn't clear how many were ready or where they would first be deployed. Tam said the number of devices ready for shipment is constantly being updated. In Ottawa, Canada, Saber Mufti, Eagle News, we live in interesting times.
Thanks much, Sabir. Interesting how this extension of the state of emergency and all that. I'm curious, just particularly in your neighborhood. I mean, how are the people in your immediate area, in your immediate community, handling the stay-at-home orders? Is it, I guess, easier said than done, at least for the law enforcement?
Certainly, pretty much everybody is staying at home. I mean, the streets are pretty quiet, but I still see people out there, talking to neighbors in their driveways, trying to have some sort of conversations. But what's interesting is that when I went grocery shopping, I was questioned and I was warned that better to keep your distance because bylaw officers are even patrolling grocery stores and will ticket you even if you are just, closer than 6 feet. So the warnings are there citywide. Everybody's trying to do their best. But I tell you, it's tough, especially for Canadians at this time. We love our hockey and we can't watch playoff hockey, which is something, it's in our DNA. And so this is one thing I think it's been really tough for a lot of Canadians is, what's going to happen. Saturday nights, it's hockey night in Canada for us, and that's something we haven't had in a while. But we're keeping to the rules. We're doing our best to make sure that this pandemic ends as soon as possible.
Well, thank you for that feedback, Sabir, and take care of yourself and your family, and we look forward to more updates there in Eastern Canada, okay?
Sounds good. Take care, Alfred.
Now we go to the US of A. Starting with the National Capital Region, coronavirus-related deaths surpassed 500 in the DMV. Standing by now is Ken Cruz at Fort Washington, Maryland, with the latest. Ken, aloha.
Hello, Alfred. Also, happy belated. In honor of your birthday, I'm wearing a Hawaiian shirt for you. So, of course, it's always a good call. To my report. So the number of known coronavirus cases in the Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia area stood at 17,736 as of 9 p.m. tonight. Maryland attributed 9,487 of those cases, 6,187 in Virginia, and 2,062 in D.C. The number of COVID-19 related deaths was 303 in Maryland, 155 in Virginia, and 68 in DC, for a total of 526 fatalities. One thing to note is that there were 61 deaths related to coronavirus within the past 24 hours alone, which is the highest single-day increase for our area. In Virginia, 45 have passed away at a nursing home in Richmond. Staff members attributed the outbreak to the lack of supplies, overcrowding, and not enough nurses for all the aging patients. This death toll is the highest at a long-term care facility in the United States. Also in Virginia, Prince William County Police are spreading the word about scams and schemes to ignore. So here's a couple. One scam claims that by providing your social security number and financial information, you'll get access to a COVID-19 vaccine. Officer Marsha Whaley of the Crime Prevention Unit said, "Please remember, there is no vaccine." A couple more. Medicare recipients telling them that they're eligible to get coronavirus tests first. Also not true. And then finally, people who have been claiming to be collecting donations for federal or local disaster workers. So these scams, I mean, it's pretty sad that people are trying to take advantage of people at this time, but it's important that people know that there are those out there that are looking to make money even during this pandemic in a legal way. So please be wary of those that call and are asking for your financial information or donations. Next up, in Maryland, Chief Judge Mary Ellen Barber directed judges throughout the state to identify at-risk prison inmates for potential release to help in mitigating the spread of coronavirus inside state prisons and detention facilities. Today, DC Mayor Muriel E. Bowser said that the stay-at-home order and social distancing measures put in place could result in the number of cases peaking earlier than expected. In Fort Washington, Maryland, Ken Cruz, Eagle News, we live in interesting times.
Thanks much for the scoop, Ken. I'm especially, curious and fascinated with the dynamics of the DMV being a two-state and a DC, being a one metro area. I'm curious about the hospitals and capacity that they have, especially between Maryland and Virginia. Is one state having capacity issues over the other that you can observe from?
Sure. So specifically Maryland has, because of Governor Hogan, there's 6,000 beds that he ordered. So that's helping with the influx of those that are being admitted. In Virginia, actually, just yesterday, scientists that are advising the Virginia's government said that because of social distancing, their models show that the state's hospitals have enough beds to handle the pandemic for the next few months if the current trend continues. So that's good news. It looks like the states are prepared, unless there's an uptick where people just, start getting sick or stop following the social distancing measures, then it looks like, based on the models, that things will, that the hospitals at least will be prepared for the patients.
I would hope, given that the closeness of the relationship between Maryland and Virginia, that there's got to be some kind of a plan, rough draft or not, as far as sharing each other's resources, if it comes down to that. I was wondering if you've heard anything.
Yeah, so it's very common. I know for a fact that Mayor Bowser and then the governors of both Virginia and Maryland have frequent meetings to discuss, the capacity and also needs. So I also know that, up north, they have their own coalition when it comes to these things. So I know that a lot of the states, there's a West Coast one too, I believe California, Oregon, Washington. A lot of the states are, combining powers so that to make sure that supplies and facilities are available for those that need it.
Yeah, that's very reassuring. I appreciate the update there, Ken. You take care of yourself, and Looking forward to more of your sports updates, however possible if it may be.
Absolutely. Every Sunday. Just quick plug, EBC Sports International Home Edition. Back to you, Alfred.
Good plug. Thanks for the reminder. Now, let's move up to the Empire State of New York, where the governor, Andrew Cuomo, announces a multi-state council and hopes the worst would be behind them. Abigail Dumlao from Rochester with her report. Abigail, hello.
Hello, Alfred. Throughout this pandemic, New York has had the unfortunate recognition of being #1 in the country for both COVID cases and deaths. As of this morning, 140 people in the state have tested positive for this virus, and 10,834 New Yorkers have lost their lives. Governor Cuomo placed these numbers into perspective, noting that this virus has become a silent killer, with more than 4 times as many people killed from this pandemic than during the September 11 terrorist attacks. Despite the dire situation here in New York, the governor shared a sense of cautious optimism, noting that for the first time today, net change in the total number of hospitalizations was negative, meaning to say that for the first time since the beginning of the pandemic, there were more people being discharged than there were being admitted into the healthcare system. Governor Cuomo is hoping that this new data means that the policies enacted to protect New Yorkers are finally beginning to see positive results, and he hopes that means the worst of the virus is finally behind us. Still, the governor is reminding all New Yorkers not to take this as a sign that everything will now quickly go back to normal, but instead have realistic expectations that this will be a long period of recovery for the state and for the country. He continues to remind all citizens to adhere to social distancing and travel only when absolutely needed. Cuomo also yesterday announced their creation of a multi-state council in partnership with neighbor states New Jersey, Connecticut, Delaware, Rhode Island, and Pennsylvania. This council will be responsible for coordinating reopening of the regional economy by making sure the states work together to lift social isolations, restrictions without risking an increase in infection rates. Cuomo tweeted on Sunday, "When things are their worst, you will see the very best and worst of people. Sometimes it will break your heart, but you will also inspired beyond belief by goodness of others. At the end of the day, goodness wins." In Rochester, New York, Abigail Dumlao, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
Mahalo for that update, Abby. I'm curious as how things are going in your hometown of Rochester. You know, being not as big obviously as Buffalo or especially New York City. What's the attitude like of the residents there? I mean, is the governor's optimism similar to how the residents there are like from your observation?
From my observation, the people here are helping each other by offering to buy groceries of elders, and they're making masks to donate it, and inspiring each other to stay home and save lives through social media.
That's good to know. And I'm hoping it's already warmer there in upstate New York. And you take care.
I wish. But as of now, it's snowing with 39 degrees Fahrenheit. And
we're going to blame Canada for that, okay? Thank you, Abigail. You stay safe, and we look forward to more reports there in the Empire State. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Now, from the north, we head all the way south to the Lone Star State of Texas. But we're not going to talk about Texas. We're going to talk about the state of Mississippi, where the governor there declares a new state of emergency with at least 12 tornadoes having claimed 11 lives. Our bureau chief there in the Lone Star State, Kathleen Gregorio, is standing by to update us. Aloha, Kathleen.
Mahalo, Alfred. Howdy and aloha, y'all, as we say here in the Hawaiian part of Texas, known as Corpus Christi, because like you, we're also by the beach and we have palm trees. You know, Alfred, spring is the start of the severe weather season here in the South. But first, we go to Mississippi, where we just received information from Eagle News correspondent El Marie Gonzalez about the conditions there. This past weekend, Governor Tate Reeves of Mississippi declared a new state of emergency as strong thunderstorms with 200-mile-per-hour winds produced 12 tornadoes, claiming 11 lives and affecting 30 counties, resulting in lost power, hundreds of destroyed and badly damaged homes. And meanwhile, the state is also experiencing an unemployment crisis with over tens of thousands jobless. Red Cross is sheltering families while others are moving into hotels. In addition, the Mississippi Department of Health announced Monday that 161 new cases of the coronavirus were confirmed, bringing the statewide total to almost 3,000, with nearly 100 deaths. Governor Reeves also mentioned that the shelter-in-place order to stop the spread of COVID-19 expires at 8 a.m. Sunday, April 20th. He reiterated the need to open things up as quickly as possible, even though residents won't be able to return to their typical lives right away. Here in my home state of Texas, Governor Greg Abbott announced Goldman Sachs and the Lift Fund and other community development financial institutions will join forces to provide $50 million in loans for small businesses affected by COVID-19. This will be part of the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses program. What this is are loans made through the U.S. Small Business Administration's Paycheck Protection Program and will focus on payroll so that workers can continue to receive their salaries, allowing small businesses to keep their workers, and will be partially or wholly forgiven. Now, here in my town of Corpus Christi, along the Gulf Coast, we heard from Texas resident Jackson Southard regarding his thoughts on reopening businesses here in the Lone Star State. Let's take a look now.
Hello, I'm Jackson Southard. I'm from Corpus Christi, Texas. As far as the businesses opening back up, yeah, they're in a really bad shape. No one's earning any money if they're closed, and the bills keep coming in, and you know, they need to open back up, but it's a balancing thing. Here in Texas, I think it's kind of soon. The pandemic hasn't even peaked yet. They're going to let people go back to work, and you know, I don't know. It's maybe too early for that. Maybe wait another month. The best way is a phased bring back the economy rather than have everybody trying to start everything up all at once, like the schools and everything else. There's going to be a lot of confusion anyway with everybody trying to get started back up and stuff. So we'll just have to see what happens.
Governor Abbott stated that small businesses and their employees are at the heart of Texas economy, and they need support during these difficult times. These loans will help us revitalize our economy and restore Texans' livelihood as we respond to COVID-19. In Corpus Christi, Texas, I'm Jane Kathleen Gregorio, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
Mahalo nui loa there, Kathleen, for that update. I am especially intrigued by Jack's statement about some businesses wanting to open sooner than later. Now, and of course, the government is sending some help financially to jumpstart, if you will. It's kind of curious, though. You have the capacity to open up and operate, but what about the consumer's confidence in going out and field business as usual? You got two parts of that equation that one part cannot solve the other.
That's true, Alfred. In fact, speaking to some of my friends, one of my nurse friends, Cecilia, she was telling me the other day how she missed being able to leave her house and go for a nice dinner with friends, and also go to the mall, and and as I think about all of the clothing stores, the non-essential businesses that have been closed all this time, wow, like, will some of these small mom and pop shops, will they be able to reopen, especially our favorite little boutiques, our favorite coffee shops. Me, I'm a big coffee fan, and I have several little favorite coffee places that are non-franchise, that are locally owned, that I love going to. So part of me feels worried, will they still be okay? Will they be like an endangered species? So that's one of our concerns. I'm going back to the weather situation. While here in the South, in Texas, normally we also experience severe weather and sometimes hurricanes. But fortunately, during the time that the severe weather patterns hit the other southern states, we weren't affected. However, our governor did announce that he made preparations. He announced that numerous state agencies will be standing by and preparing for any severe weather that will come our way. In fact, he advised that when storms brew, the safest place is indoors. He also advised avoid flooded areas and fast-flowing water. And when you see water on roads, turn around, don't drown. As for me and my Dalgona coffee, we will stay here safe at home. And stay tuned to the broadcast later on, as we will discover the recipe. Back to you in the studio.
How about sharing some of that Dalgona right now? I'm running out on my end here.
Why not sharing some Kona coffee with me here in the Lone Star State? We miss that Kona coffee and that macadamia nuts.
There you go. They're a good idea. We'll talk offline on that one. Thank you very much, Kathleen, and stay safe there. I appreciate it. Right. Okay. Now, let's move on to the Golden State. Governor Gavin Newsom announces the details of California's roadmap to modify the stay-at-home order. Joining us from Southern California at North Hill is Pearl Rogashon, standing by. Hello, Pearl.
Hello, Alfred. California currently has 24,438 confirmed COVID-19 cases and 732 deaths for the Johns Hopkins University and Medicine Coronavirus Resource Center. California State Governor Gavin Newsom announced today the details of California's roadmap to modify the stay-at-home order. He outlined the 6 indicators that California will use as a guide in the decision to change the state's current stay-at-home order and other orders, which also includes reopening the economy. The 6 indicators are specifically outlined in this roadmap, were ability to monitor and protect our communities through testing, contact tracing, isolating, and supporting those who are positive or exposed, ability to prevent infection in people who are at high risk, ability of hospitals and health systems to handle surges, ability to develop therapeutics to meet the demand, ability for businesses, schools, and childcare facilities to support physical distancing, ability to determine when to reinstitute certain measures such as the stay-at-home orders, if necessary. Meanwhile, in Los Angeles, the county continues to lead in the number of cases and deaths, with a total of 9,240 positive COVID-19 cases and 320 deaths, as reported by the Los Angeles Public Health Department. The County of Los Angeles recently announced the opening of the Los Angeles Surge Hospital, or LASH, a temporary 266-bed COVID-only hospital specific for treating patients who are positive for this virus. This new hospital is currently located in the former St. Vincent's Hospital Medical Center in Los Angeles. This transfer-only facility is unique for the Los Angeles area because of its sole purpose of accepting COVID-19 positive patients. This hospital will not accommodate walk-ins, does not have an emergency room, and will not receive patients from neighboring community hospitals that are reaching their surge capacity. The opening of this facility was a public and private partnership between the Los Angeles County Department of Health Services, Dignity Health, Kaiser Permanente, and state of California in efforts to expand the health care delivery system in Los Angeles for a potential surge. The Los Angeles Surge Hospital at St. Vincent's will serve the entire Los Angeles region with the main purpose of increasing capacities in hospitals to treat patients and assist with slowing the spread of this virus. As California continues to prepare for a possible surge of COVID patients, we must continue to do our part in supporting our front lines and hospital systems by continuing to practice social distancing, staying healthy, and remaining at home. In North Hills, California, Pearl Rogacion, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
Thank you very much for that bit of information there, Pearl. Curious about Surge Hospital. Is it already up and running? What's the status of that?
Oh, yeah, yes, Alfred. According to the Los Angeles County Twitter page, the hospital is open. However, the public is reminded that they're not taking walk-ins. They only accept COVID patients that are transferred from another hospital. Those are the only ones that's going to be treated.
That's a good move there by the health and local officials. We thank you. And if I may, I mean, how do you yourself stay positive, there in Southern California? How do you keep yourself busy being, having to stay home?
Oh, yeah, of course. Having two active kids, spending time with them is an opportunity these days. We do a lot of bondings, activities, from doing the laundry up to playing basketball just outside the house. We'll try anything right now.
That's good to hear. Now you take care of yourself and your family, and thank you, and to the Southern California teams to provide the constant updates. Thank you.
Thank you too.
Now let's move on to a place that's near and dear to most residents here in Hawaii, Las Vegas, where Nevada employment ranks number 9 in the U.S. Now, what is the local government doing about it? Joining us to answer that question is Lani Valticantos, standing by with an update. Aloha, Lani.
Hello, Alfred. Aloha to you there. I'm coming to you here from the 9th Island. From our last update, we encouraged viewers to complete their online applications, but it was no surprise that unemployment claims have skyrocketed, making Nevada ranked number 9 in the nation. According to the Department of Employment and Training, as of last week's numbers, here in Nevada alone, there were 79,285 claims filed, which makes it over 270,000 so far just in 2020. These are more claims than the state saw in the last 2 years combined. These numbers are overloading the system. Over the weekend, their website posted a notice that their website would be down for maintenance to allow for system enhancements. The maintenance took longer than expected as the site was rendered to be very slow and repeatedly timing out for claimants. This proved to be frustrating for Nevadans, as a requirement to receive unemployment benefits is that each person must file a weekly claim. The department's official social media feeds have confirmed their website is fully functioning, but for optimal web page navigation, it's suggested to use the supported browsers such as, but not limited to, Google Chrome, Mozilla Firefox, or Microsoft Edge. In addition, the department selected a vendor to provide at least 100 full-time operators to boost unemployment insurance call center capacity during this period of unprecedented demand. With all this happening, good news is we have received reports that claimants have started to receive their money. The CARES Act, approved last month, claimants a variety of supplemental support. The Act provides enhanced unemployment insurance benefits, pandemic extended unemployment compensation, as well as pandemic unemployment assistance. So basically, a portion for this comes from the state funds, and the other portion comes from federal funds. The weekly benefit amounts recipients receive are at state levels. The supplemental federal funds of a suggested $600 per week for up to 13 weeks that we've heard about have yet to be received. We'll definitely keep our viewers informed as soon as updates happen. As for our COVID-19 cases, our most recent reports have accounted for 2,509 positive cases with 106 deaths. With the continued stay-at-home order, Nevadans are hoping this will continue to flatten the curve and this ongoing pandemic. With all that information, we'd like to leave you on a happy note for a treat Las Vegans received from our local U.S. Air Force. 5 Thunderbird jets dazzled the Vegas skies as they flew over 18 different hospitals and medical facilities to salute and honor our frontline medical personnel and to recognize their continued efforts in caring for those with COVID-19. I personally didn't get to watch because I was at work, but a couple of our correspondents who did said it was so heartwarming to see people just stopped on the side of the road or at a parking lot or just at the corner of a street, watching the jets as they passed by. In Las Vegas, Lonnie Valdecantos, Eagle News, we live in interesting times.
That was an impressive display of appreciation by the U.S. Air Force Thunderbirds, I believe. That's the name of the demonstration team that does shows there and around the world. It's good to see them showing appreciation for frontliners and those fighting this disease. Now, you mentioned the unemployment claims system. We have something similar here in Hawaii, in which the system went down and then came back up to make some adjustments. Now, I wonder, were there any shuffling of employees at the state or county levels to supplement assisting these claim applications? I'm curious on how the state of Nevada handled that.
So the state actually hired on 100 full-time operators. We're utilizing call centers and reaching out to third parties actually for the state.
Well, that's good to know. I'm hoping, hopefully things will work out. At least getting those applications in, and best of luck to those who make them happen. Well, thank you very much, Lonnie. And yes, I personally still look forward to visiting the Ninth Island myself. I know Anna and I talked offline. Our family and I are kind of sort of overdue. So
yes, definitely.
hope to make that to-do list pretty soon. Thank you.
Yes, we welcome you back, and our economy will welcome you back.
Good to know. Good to know. Well, thank you for all our correspondents, their live report. When we come back, we will have a conversation with a school lunch server in Washington State who is still going to work every day to help feed families, and especially the children in that area. Keep it right here. This is the ABC's coverage of the coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic. This is Eagle News. Stay with us.
This program is co-presented by Kubert Industries Incorporated, Electromechanical Trading and Services, The Cooling Expert, Vita Herbs Philippines Green Coffee, Masarap, Mabango at Healthy Pa, Cadred Corporation, your ventilation and air conditioning specialist. In participation with Rain or Shine Elastomeric Waterproofing Paint, color for protection for your home. Matimco. Matimco is wood. Wood is Matimco. Our Square Variables Incorporated, your trusted UPS supplier and UPS maintenance provider in Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. CompuZell Computer Services, ID card and lanyard manufacturer. DN Steel. EMAC, UPVC Roof Corporation.
We welcome back our viewers around the world. I'm Alfred DeSantis coming to you live from Hawaii. During these unexpected circumstances involving closures, restrictions, social distancing, etc., affected schools have leveraged their participation in the summer meal programs to provide meals to students for free. In fact, the U.S. Department of Agriculture, or USDA, has an interactive map on their website wherein parents can use to find free meals for their kids. But because some volunteers at certain locations have been tested for the disease, some states have stepped back or even canceled these programs for the duration of their respective stay-at-home or equivalent orders. Now, with us today is Narcisa Jones, a school lunch server with almost 14 years of experience. She continues to provide these meals at the Puyallup School District in the greater Seattle-Tacoma area. Hello, Narcisa. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, Alfred. Aloha and happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you. We respect and we salute you, for what you do. How are you feeling? How are you during these times right now, as a person and as a servant?
Well, kind of anxious and because of the changes that we had in our job, and yeah, it's sometimes scary especially when you are outside already, what to expect. So trying to protect ourselves as well, and right now we're okay, and just stay at home if we're not allowed.
But what changes have you seen in the way you protect yourself and the students while preparing these meals and giving them away?
Well, it's the changes is like we have to wear our mask while preparing those food, and then we are not engaging the person. Just hand it and then they just grab. So that's the changes there. So we are not interacting the student because they are staying in the car. They cannot go out to get their food. So just like hand gesture, and then that's it.
Yeah, that can be challenging, especially
Yes,
especially if you're familiar with each other. Yeah, that can be a challenge. Now, since the program began, I mean, has there been more families availing of these services, or has the number increased, decreased, stayed the same? What's your observation since the program began?
Well, in my observation, every single day that when we started last March 23rd, it's increasing every single day. And surprisingly, it's sometimes we see some new faces, because the thing is we don't ask anymore if they are from our area. We just give whoever will drive up in our station. We just give. So every single time that we serve food, it's increasing. It's surprisingly increasing.
That's good to know. That's good to know. And what kind of reactions or feedbacks have you received from the families that drive up, or even the children that sometimes ride with them?
Oh, they are so thankful. Every time the kids is excited to see us, and they can even say, "Thank you, lunch lady." Yes, you always, we always receive food, even though it's, don't have school. That's what they told us every single day. So
that's good. That's good to know. Now, you're helping make sure every child who needs food, gets, is able to receive the meals. I mean, how does it feel to be able to help others, that way? How does it feel?
Well, it feels good because, at least in this situation, you can still help those people. And surprisingly, it's really a lot of people, a lot of kids need food. I was surprised because yesterday, Monday, we even served like 308 boxes of food. So in that school only, and we are 23 elementary school in our district serving food. So, yeah.
That's good. That's good to hear. Now, surely there are some other, some families and parents who, are still hesitating because of, they're paranoid. Forgive the term. What would you like to tell them? Those parents who have not yet availed of that free meal service? We're giving you the chance right now to invite.
Well, we told them that you are safe with us because if we are sick, we were not allowed to serve. So we have flyers that we're giving away, and we have in our school also we have those sign that we are serving free food. So that's because the school that I'm at is beside the busy street. So it's really helped those signs that to know the family that doesn't know yet. And sometimes I post it in my Facebook page about that free food that we are giving away.
It's a good idea to use social media to campaign for that program. Well, we thank you, Narcisa, and congratulations in your program. We ask, of course, be safe out there in performing that very, very valuable service. We wish you the best. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was Narcisa Jones from the Washington State area. And thank you to all the servers out there across the country, across the continent and other parts of the world who go to work every day to provide these meals for children, and just a way to reach out that the community is there to help and to ensure that children don't go hungry during this crisis. Coming up, we're going to learn how to bake some mouth-watering red velvet crinkles and whip up some of that Dalgona coffee that Kathleen Gregorio just demonstrated to us. This is Eagle News. We'll be right back.
This program is co-presented by Kubert Industries Incorporated, Electromechanical Trading and Services, The Cooling Expert, Vita Herbs Philippines Green Coffee, Masarap, Mabango at Healthy Pa, Cadrid Corporation, your ventilation and air conditioning specialist. In participation with Rain or Shine Elastomeric Waterproofing Paint, color for protection for your home. Matimco. Matimco is wood. Wood is Matimco. Our Square Variables Incorporated, your trusted UPS supplier and UPS maintenance provider in Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. CompuZell Computer Services, ID card and lanyard manufacturer. DN Steel. EMAC, UPVC Roof Corporation.
We welcome back our viewers as we are live here in Honolulu to continue our coverage of the coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic covering down on North America. Now, earlier in the show, we talked about food, breakfast and lunch. Right now, we're going to talk about desserts. A friend of us in EBC, Marianne Borja, invites us to her kitchen in North Hills, California, to show us how to bake these super yummy red velvet crinkles. Oh yeah, you heard me right, red velvet crinkles. I like to try out, but I gotta keep look out for myself. But let's take a bite and take a look.
Hi everyone, my name is Marianne Borja, and today we'll be teaching you how to make these really yummy red velvet crinkle cookies. So you'll need a box of red velvet cake mix, half a cup of vegetable oil, and 2 large eggs. You'll also need some confectioner sugar and a scooper. So what you're going to do is put some confectioner sugar in a bowl, and you're going to mix all your ingredients, wet and dry, without sugar of course, and mix it together to make a soft dough. Then you're going to make balls with your scooper and dip them in the confectioner sugar. You're going to want to make sure to cover up the whole ball. Then place it on a tray with parchment paper, and press them with a cup to make sure that they're flat. Make sure that there's a little space between them so that they're not touching when they're cooking. Put your timer for 9 minutes in your oven and place the cookies in the oven. When that's done, make sure to get some oven mitts to take them out of the oven. They'll look something like this. Now you're going to take a strainer, a small one, and get some confectioner sugar and place it on there so that we can sprinkle them on top of the cookies. It looks a little bit like snow. You can put as much as you like. Taste test. This is what the inside looks like. You can even put them in some milk and dip them, and they'll taste really good. You can also put some ice cream on top of them to make a little sandwich. I hope you enjoyed today's recipe. My name is Marianne Borja, and we live in interesting times.
Thank you, Marianne, for that tasty feature. I look forward to sampling one. Maybe I can just cut one of them in half just to kind of watch myself and some of my colleagues in Eagle News that also have to watch their health. Thank you again. Now, from California, let's move on to Louisiana in Baton Rouge, where our barista, Nicole Adeline Padilla, will show us the recipe on how to whip up some of that Dalgona coffee. She'll invite us to her kitchen and check out how it's done.
Hello from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I'm Nicole Padilla, and today I will be demonstrating my version of one of the most trendy stay-at-home recipes on the internet, the Dalgona or whipped coffee. Let's begin. For this recipe, you will need the following: instant coffee, sugar or a sugar substitute, milk or a dairy-free alternative, a glass of your choice, a medium bowl, hot water, and a whisk. Now that we have our ingredients, let's make some coffee. To make 1 serving, add 2 teaspoons of coffee, sugar, and hot water. Then you can use a hand mixer or an electric mixer to whip the coffee until it has doubled in size. This might take a while, but I promise it's worth it.
A few moments later.
After several minutes of mixing, you should end up with a coffee mixture that is fluffy and light in color. Then grab your glass and fill it with milk, For a milk alternative, you can add ice cubes to make an iced coffee or heat up your milk to make it warm. Spoon the whipped coffee on top, then mix it into the milk to combine. And there you have it, a fancy coffee drink you can make right here at home using ingredients you already have. I hope you enjoyed this recipe for the Dalgona whipped coffee. I'm Nicole Adeline Padilla from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Eagle News, we live in interesting and delicious times. Back to you in the studios.
Thank you very much, Nicole, for that tasty feature, and we're looking forward to sampling some more treats from our friends here at EBC. Now, we want to give you guys a preview of what we have in our other live broadcasts, and joining us live tomorrow, our labor attaché from the Philippine Embassy in the U.S., based in Washington, D.C., Angela Librado Trinidad. She'll be joining us, and Welfare Officer Josephine Tabia. So please stay tuned to our live broadcast tomorrow. Now, before we end today, here are some reminders that we would like to put out. Again, we asked, please wash your hands often with soap and water. Cover that mouth and nose, especially if sneezing or coughing. Avoid touching those eyes, nose, and mouth, and avoid contact with those who might be sick. If you yourself are sick, take the initiative and stay home or call your healthcare provider. We wish to remind, we cannot emphasize enough the importance of social distancing. Whether it be 6 feet for us in the U.S. or 2 meters in other parts of the world. Please keep yourself distant from others. Wear protective face and covering when out in public. We stand together with kindness. To stand together with kindness and support for each other to build stronger communities. We do hope for all the communities that this bond will last even after this pandemic. Let's continue to thank our frontline and essential workers with a round of applause and a salutation for what they do. A case in point here in Hawaii, we've also learned that even those who manage your own fabric shops are now considered essential personnel, here at least in Hawaii, to provide the material to make more of those face masks. We salute those who risk their lives so that we can save everyone else's. This is today's EBC's international coverage of the coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic for North America. We thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you in our other news programs. Coming to you live from Hawaii, I'm Alfred Asenas. We live in interesting times. Aloha.